Hi, this is Dar Williams, and you are listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with my friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart. Weekly music news for the new music business.
From network notes, fan burner accounts, music's latest dirty secret.
From Murray Stassen at Music Business Worldwide, Universal and Suno are in a PR battle over walled gardens in AI music.
From Jesse Hollington at iDrop News, iTunes isn't just surviving, it's becoming a Superfan Powerhouse. And our friend Russ Krupnick from Music Watch weighs in. Well, Jay, it is good to see you. We are going to start episode 288 right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand! Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air, on the air, on the air, on the air, on the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Well, Jay, it is so good to see you here on episode 288. And man, what a week. And unbelievably, after 10 years and 500 episodes, you're leaving the Music Biz Weekly podcast. Man, oh man, oh man.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed doing that podcast. And for those that don't know, that's for DIY artists, developing artists. You know, it's been such a joy to do that with Mike Brandvold. And I'm sort of the new guy. Like, he had another co-host for the first 200 episodes. We've done 500 episodes over the last 10 years. And we've met a lot of great people and just really enjoyed doing that. But, you know, I was doing 3 podcasts at one time. Now it's Your Morning Coffee. And the reason is I want to focus on working with college level music industry programs and growing Your Morning Coffee. And so I told Mike that, you know, after this next week, you know, I'll be stepping away. But it's been such a joy, and he's such a pro. And it's just been a career highlight working with him.
Well, and 500 episodes. Let's talk about 500 episodes. That is a lot of talking. That is a lot of podcasting. Yeah. That is a wonderful thing, and it's still going. We should mention, of course, his podcast is still going, the Music Biz Weekly podcast. And good on you guys.
Absolutely.
Good on you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for mentioning that. One other quick thing. I'm going to be doing the keynote at the 47th annual MEIEA conference, and that's in Denver next month. And if you don't know, MEIEA, that's the Music and Entertainment Industry Educators Association. And that's an international organization that really brings together educators with leaders in the music and entertainment industries. A lot of great educators, a lot of smart people over at MEIEA, and I'm thrilled to be doing the keynote this year.
Well, I think we've mentioned this a couple of times. It's like, boy, I sure wish from my college years I could have had programs like exist now available to me. There's just so many wonderful music industry programs throughout the country. It's stunning.
Oh, yeah. If you're a young person today at the college level, I would say most colleges now have some sort of music industry program. And I've loved working with these programs. They're just, you're standing on the shoulders of giants with some of these kids. They're so smart.
Yes, indeed. Hey, coming this week, we've got a special bonus episode of the Your Morning Coffee podcast. It is a conversation with author, podcaster, engineer, and producer Bobby Owsinski. Jay and I got to hang out with Bobby. We discussed a wide range of topics, including his musician's AI handbook and the typical roles and responsibilities of engineers, mixers, and producers, and all the tech. And we had a lovely chat, didn't we?
We had a great chat. Don't miss that one. I love that conversation around, well, what does an engineer do?
Yeah.
What does a mixer do? And what do producers typically do? And there's some cross-pollination there, but I thought his explanation was spot on. So don't miss the Bobby Owsinski episode. And lastly, one other special episode that we're really excited about. I think we're recording it, I'm looking at the clock, like in the next couple of weeks. Coming soon, our next AI Roundtable episode. And this is with some of the brightest minds in the AI space, including Kristen Robinson from Billboard, Vicky Nauman from Cross Border Works, Danny Deal from Caldecott Music Group. And that's BandLab's parent company. We love Danny. And of course, our friend Bobby Owsinski.
Well, it's so fun to do that. And I learned so much. It is just a gas. Yeah, really, really fun. A few news items that caught our attention. Spotify's About the Song feature adds context to discovery. So About the Song, the feature introduces short swipeable story cards directly into Spotify's Now Playing view. These cards surface background information, meaning, and behind-the-scenes details about the track a listener is currently playing, summarized from third-party sources. In other words, Spotify is experimenting with making context a first-class part of streaming again.
Yeah, looking forward to playing with this. The feature is currently rolling out on iOS and Android in English for premium users in the US, UK, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, and Australia. Another piece that caught our attention this week, sort of late breaking, is this one's from Taylor Mims at Billboard, and the headline was California introduces bill to cap resale ticket prices, and we're following this really closely. So California State Assemblyman Matt Haney has introduced a bill that would cap the resale of concert tickets to no more than 10% over face value.
Yeah, the bill, labeled AB 1720, would make it illegal to resell a concert, theater, comedy, or other live entertainment ticket, sports are not included, by the way, at a price higher than face value. So the cost of the ticket plus fees from the primary ticketing source, plus 10% for shows taking place in California.
Right. He says that the bill is very simple, it's enforceable, it's common sense, and it's fair to both fans and artists. And this is what Haney told Billboard. It's about the astronomical cost of resale that's being driven by bots and ticket brokers who are exploiting a scheme to leech off the work of artists.
So by creating a resale ticket cap, you remove the profit motive for ticket brokers, says Music Artists Coalition Executive Director Ron Gubitz. With a markup of no more than 10%, artists performing in California could keep their ticket prices low without concerns that any value cap between their price and the price a broker could get on the secondary market would be minimal. If professional resellers can only make 10% on flipping tickets, that takes a lot of incentive out of the job, since returns can no longer be hundreds of times the price of the face value ticket.
Yeah, this is a problem that's gotten out of control and it's getting much worse. We see concert tickets completely out of reach for actual fans sometimes, and these brokers are getting more sophisticated in grabbing all the tickets and forcing fans to pay astronomical prices, the Assemblyman said. We need arts and entertainment for our cities to thrive, for our state's economy to recover.
Well, we will continue to watch this space and see how that goes. This next one from Andrew Harding, the state of sync. What 2025 platform data reveals about music decisions across TV, radio, and streaming. So this was really more of an ad for Source Audio, but it's a beautiful online presentation with lots of great insights on the current state of sync licensing.
That's right. And for those that don't know, sync licensing, that's where you get your music placed in, film, TV, games, things like that. So one of the clearest shifts in 2025 was how buyers for sync approached discovery. Search behavior increasingly prioritized mood, energy, pacing, and emotional content over traditional genre labels. That was interesting. Creative teams search for how music should feel and function, not what genre it belonged to. This change reflected how storytelling itself is evolving across fragmented attention environments and multi-format distribution. From sustained platform search behavior, several consistent patterns emerged. And you can check this out again in this piece. It's a beautiful, beautiful online, presentation that you can, mouse through. And there's a lot of insights on the sync world.
Yes, indeed. This next one from iDrop News, Jesse Hollington over there. iTunes isn't just surviving, it's becoming a superfan powerhouse. So a recent report from Bloomberg's Ashley Carman revealed that the record labels care a lot more about iTunes than most folks realize.
Yeah, Jesse goes on to write that Apple recently announced that there are over 2.5 billion active Apple devices out in the wild. And while there's undoubtedly some overlap among folks who own more than one device, that still adds up to a large number of Apple users who don't subscribe to Apple Music. In fact, 80% of iTunes users are not subscribed to Apple Music, according to Carmen.
Yeah, so both physical and digital album purchases have also become a way for superfans to demonstrate support for their favorite artists. Some of this is just a desire to own a hit album in every possible format, while in other cases it's a conscious decision to spend the money on digital vinyl, knowing that a single $29 track or $9.99 album purchase often yields more for the artist than hundreds of individual streams.
Right. I love that they're calling digital downloads the digital vinyl. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Well, our friend Russ Krupnick from Music Watch, he sort of weighs in. He sent me a note after, we discussed this article a little bit. And here are a few points from Russ. He said that 95% of iOS users are music streamers. They're 31% more likely to use either Spotify Premium, Amazon Music Unlimited, or YouTube Premium than Apple Music, meaning that just because they don't use Apple Music doesn't imply that they don't use a paid service at all.
Right. He went on to say to imply that download sales have stabilized because the mid-year number was flat is just misleading. Digital track sales are down over 80% over the past 9 years. Yes, lots of people still listen to digital downloads, but to imply downloads are like vinyl is wrong.
Right. And finally, Russ told me that it makes sense that downloads should be considered as part of a release plan, but to suggest that digital downloads are some sort of superfood, well, that's just nonsense. So thank you, Russ, for weighing in. We've got Record Store Day coming, and
Yes.
I'm really excited. And this is going to be a big one. So Record Store Day 2026, the lineup was announced, and there was a great story in Variety written by Chris Willman. And again, Record Store Day is April 18th, and there's some just amazing releases coming.
Right. So check out this Variety piece in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter, or go to the Record Store Day website for the full list of releases, which are being issued in quantities from the low 100s up to 20,000, the number given for Fall Out Boy's slightly less limited edition. So we should note, RSD first means the project may come out later in a wider release. RSD exclusive means this pressing really is a one-time thing, although in some cases the exclusivity is about the cover art or vinyl color, and there still could be a wider release with different packaging.
Yeah, super important to note. Thank you for that. Let's look at just a few highlights. Now, again, we're going to go through like 10 or so of some of these releases, but there's so many. You really need to check out the website. But here are a few highlights that Mike and I have been talking about. Number one, Pink Floyd live from the LA Sports Arena. That's from 1975. Number two, Bruce Springsteen live from Asbury Park, and that's 2024. Cat's Eye, and that's the Touch Gabriella tour arrangements and a cappella versions. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and this is Wicked, One Wonderful Night, so that's a live recording. Brandi Carlile live at Easy Street Records, Volume 2. The first one's amazing. This is Easy Street up in Seattle. Great record store. And then K-Pop Demon Hunters, and this is a soundtrack for the Netflix film, Hunter X Edition, and K-Pop Demon Hunters, and this is the soundtrack from the Netflix film, the Saja Boys edition.
We've also got a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers live from the Paradise Theater in Boston back in July of 1978. Fall Out Boy, So Much for Our Dust, live at Madison Square Gardens. Olivia Dean, BBC Radio 1 Live Lounge. Bruno Mars, The Collaborations. Weezer, 1192. And Madonna, The Confessions Tour, live from London. Record Store Day, as we said, is on April 18th. And boy, oh boy, do we look forward to that and it's just, it's almost overwhelming how many amazing titles are released for Record Store Day. It's crazy.
And I think that the record store that you and I go to, just because it's closer, I mean, I love Amoeba. I love all these record stores in Los Angeles area, CD Trader. But we go to Salzer's.
Yes, we do.
Because it's a little bit easier for me to get to. And it's sort of right between us.
Yes, it is. You know? It's a great, and I've been going to Salzer's since I was a little kid. And I still get that buzz when I walk in the door. It's such a blast.
It's a cool vibe. It's a real record store.
Hey, Jay, before we get going on the big stories, I'm going to say we thank our sponsors because we certainly appreciate their participation every week, including our friends over at Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It is edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Jeremy Young. Hypebot is published and supported by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Yes, sir. Bands in Town, now over 100 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist services platform, connecting over 700,000 artists with their super fans. So managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates to over 4 billion music fans across all platforms.
And every week I get to hang out with one of my best friends, Jay Gilbert, music industry consultant, curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups. And one of those people, when I first met him, I just knew we had a very similar taste in music.
Yeah, we clicked right away. And I'm very fortunate that Mike agreed to do this podcast with me. We're well over 300 episodes together and just still having a great time. Mike, if you don't know by now, a longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Group. Let's jump into the stories this week. The first one, and this is from Network Notes, and the headline was Fan Burner Accounts, Music's Latest Dirty Secret. So why these accounts are on the rise and what it means for where social is headed for artists. So fan burner accounts are something that have existed for a while in one form or another, but which have recently started to come to the fore again. For the unaware, a fan burner account is run by usually a third-party agency, though sometimes in-house, and it exists to deliver high volumes of posts focused around one or sometimes more bands or artists on multiple social media platforms.
Yeah, so a more recent development is that I'm seeing artists less willing to spend time on social media and therefore more willing to engage with the use of fan burner accounts. He says, frankly, this makes a lot of sense. It is getting harder and harder to find traction on social media thanks to its increasingly transient nature, all fueled by the algorithm. As a consequence, it's easy to see why artists are simply saying enough is enough and trying where possible to step back.
Right. So again, this is from Network Notes, and they write that the kinds of fan burner accounts I'm seeing being run are costing easily over £1,000 per month per account. These accounts don't generate a meaningful connection with an artist. They insert them into the zeitgeist, arguably, but it's up for debate as to the value of that connection. Personally, I feel it's relatively low.
Alongside that, they say we have to wonder whether the money being thrown at these accounts, and it is worth stating that often artists, management, or labels are operating 2 or 3 of these at the same time, is a smart use of budget. So a side note, this is all before they get into frankly ridiculous space of agencies selling fan burner accounts back to artist management for 5-figure sums, which they say feels utterly wrong.
Right. They go on to say that I need to be absolutely clear about something here. I'm not judging anyone for using fan burner accounts. I completely understand the logic, and the pitch for them makes a huge amount of sense.
What they are doing, though, they say, is flagging a concern as to whether they are all simply buying into perpetuating an environment where more and more time and energy is funneled into things that are of persistently diminishing returns.
Yeah, super interesting article. And then I was going through and looking at the comments, and one of them jumped out at me, and this is by Ollie Isaacs. This is in the comments section. Ollie says that the proliferation of burner accounts is largely off the back of certain big artists using them very effectively to quickly push out large quantities of live content, almost contemporaneously with the shows themselves. It's highly algorithmic and has worked really well for some, but you're right that it won't work sustainably for most. Possibly you've seen the same retainer quotes for agency run accounts that I have. Those are way out of budget for most artists.
Right. He goes on to say, the only application I can think of for burner accounts is to be able to publish content that artists don't mind being used, but wouldn't want to publish themselves due to either aesthetic, creative boundaries around their official accounts. In that case, I think there's a valid use in that content which artists or artist teams are making or commissioning can be used, and fans get to see unvarnished video they wouldn't otherwise see. Eventually, AI will probably be able to make all of this stuff without the artist even doing the gig. Won't that be great?
Won't that be great? Wow. Great piece. We don't talk about those fan burner accounts very often, but the next one, the next story this week is from Chris Egertson, and this is from Billboard. The Billboard Power 100 honorees predict where the music business is headed in 2026. So what major developments can we expect in the coming year? The power players across the industry make their best guesses. These Power 100 honorees responded to the following question: make one prediction about the music business in 2026. Not surprisingly, a substantial percentage weighed in on the role of AI, what that will play in the year ahead, and most offering a pretty positive assessment.
Well, as one executive put it, I think 2026 is when we move past the anxiety and into genuine collaboration. But others were more mixed, though, with another predicting more AI confusion and pain in the short term.
Yeah. So let's start with Melissa Aaron from Atlantic Records. Melissa said that, I think we're moving towards a place where building a core dedicated fan base matters more than anything else. Viral moments are obviously huge for the music business, but we'll need to continue to take that online energy and turn it into something that lasts far beyond that moment. It's about longevity and making sure that we're helping build careers that have real-world cultural impact for years to come.
Chris Aron over at the MLC says, I hope and believe that we will start to see more data managers on the teams of artists and songwriters. That's very interesting. Our friend David Israelite over at the NMPA says the publishing business will continue to experience significant growth and the catalog market will remain vibrant. Ramon Villa over at Primary Wave said more international sounds will cross over. A large tech company will step into major rights ownership. Interesting.
Yeah, I think all of these are spot on. And Steve Boom from Amazon said the industry is going to figure out how to work with AI in ways that work for artists, listeners, and music services. We've already begun to see this take shape, and I think that 2026 is when we move past the anxiety and into genuine collaboration. Artists will increasingly use AI as a creative tool to enhance their artistry and explore ideas maybe that they couldn't before. We'll see new hybrid formats emerge where human creativity is amplified by AI in ways that feel authentic rather than gimmicky. Most importantly, the conversation will shift from AI versus human music to what amazing things can artists create when they have access to these new tools. That's when things will get really interesting.
Interesting. So Harvey Mason Jr. from the Recording Academy said music will continue to shrink the globe. In 2026, we'll see even more artists and sounds from outside the U.S. break through at a mainstream level, while American artists increasingly build meaningful audiences overseas. As listeners continue to expand their music taste and platforms erase borders, and the industry will move toward a truly international ecosystem, one where hits aren't defined by origin only by impact.
I thought all those predictions were spot on. I thought they were all very thoughtful and very, very well thought out. And speaking of Harvey Mason Jr., our next story from Murray Stassen at Music Business Worldwide, the headline was Harvey Mason Jr. on AI, Grammy eligibility, and why human creativity will always matter. Recording Academy's CEO, Harvey Mason Jr., sat down with Luminate CEO, Rob Jonas, during Grammy Week for a wide-ranging conversation on the forces reshaping the music industry, from algorithmic discovery to AI.
That's right. Mason noted that AI has already become ubiquitous in professional production environments and suspects not all Grammy entrants are being fully transparent about its use. He said, I've seen AI in every studio, in every session. He says, I'm not remembering a song that I've been around or a room that I've been in that was not using some form of AI.
Right. He goes on to say that rather than viewing this as cause for concern, he expressed enthusiasm about AI's potential to enhance human creativity. He said, there's going to be some incredible flesh and blood human creativity that uses this technology in a way that we haven't thought of yet. He went on to say that it creates a sound we haven't even imagined, and it allows us champions of creativity to be more prolific.
Well, on the question of Grammy eligibility, Mason clarified the Recording Academy's position. He said you can submit a song that has used AI. What we're not going to do is give a Grammy to an AI artist for singing.
Right. He noted that 2023's viral AI track, Heart on My Sleeve, which featured vocals mimicking Drake and The Weeknd, would actually have been eligible for a songwriting award had it not been for rights issues, since a human wrote the track and lyrics. Similarly, a human vocalist performing over AI-generated instrumentation could be considered for a performance-related Grammy.
Well, Mason was unequivocal, however, on voice cloning and deepfakes. He said that's not even debatable. No cloning. You can't take someone's voice. Are you kidding me? Take someone's singing voice and likeness and use it however you want? Absolutely not. I don't think there's anybody who disagrees with that.
Right. He went on to say that the Recording Academy continues to advocate for the No Fakes Act, which would establish federal protections against unauthorized voice replication. Mason said he expects the legislation to pass in the current congressional session. His advice to artists navigating this shifting landscape: lean into the technology, but double down on what makes you irreplaceable.
He said, get immersed, buy into the technology, understand it, integrate it into your creative process if you have an appetite for that. But if you're a creator and you want to be in this industry, you better have an authenticity, a voice, and honesty. No computer is going to do that for you.
Amen.
So you can read the full article. The link is in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter. Do check it out. Really interesting stuff, and stuff we'll be talking about for the rest of the year and forward for sure.
Great article. And finally, our last story for today is from Murray Stassen over at Music Business Worldwide. This was all a buzz this last week. The headline is Universal and Suno are in a PR battle over walled gardens in AI music. So a PR battle appears to be breaking out between the world's most prominent AI music company, Suno, and the world's largest music rights company, Universal Music Group. Last week, ex-major label executive Paul Sinclair, now chief music officer at AI music firm Suno, he wrote a lengthy post-Grammy Week LinkedIn post entitled Open Studios, Not Walled Gardens, and it took a direct aim at the approach championed by Universal Music Group in its recent AI licensing agreements.
Right. Well, UMG was the first major to settle its litigation with Suno rival Udio. That was back in October of last year, alongside a licensing deal for a new AI platform set to launch in 2026. The concept of a walled garden was introduced within that announcement, a model where AI-generated music cannot be downloaded or distributed outside the platform. Udio disabled downloads, with users given a 48-hour grace period to retrieve previously created tracks before the walls went up.
Oh boy. Well, Warner Music Group followed with its own Udio settlement in November, implementing similar restrictions. But when Warner Music Group then signed a separate deal with Suno later that month, the terms proved notably different. Suno retained much of its core functionality, including the ability for users to create songs and download them.
And just over a month after that deal was announced, in his annual memo to staff, UMG chairman and CEO Sir Lucian Grange appeared to warn against firms validating business models that fail to respect artists' work and creativity and promote the exponential growth of AI slop on streaming platforms.
Right. But Michael Nash, who's the executive vice president and chief digital officer at Universal, he explained that the company's position in further detail during an appearance on Billboard's On the Record podcast last week, in your morning coffee, and outlined the walled garden concept in stark terms.
Right. He said the concept of a walled garden is to set up through AI a component of the service for deep interaction with the artists and the content, but not to create derivatives that you can then take off the platform and post all over your socials and post on Spotify and Amazon Music and Apple.
He argued that by doing so, you effectively use artist content and their brand to create derivatives where you're going to compete with the artists on other platforms. Nash characterized the walled garden approach as essential to protecting artists' interests and pretty much confirmed it was a deciding factor in why UMG has not reached a settlement with Suno.
Well, when asked directly why UMG hadn't done a deal with Suno, Nash said he had to be careful because of ongoing litigation, but hinted that if it were a rhetorical question, he would say yes to the walled garden being a key differentiator.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Paul Sinclair's position, articulated in his LinkedIn post, it really advocates for what he terms open studios, an approach that maintains creative freedom while still operating within licensed frameworks. He said, and I quote, "If we had tried to lock music into closed systems over the last 25 years, we wouldn't have streaming as we know it, the world music library available in your pocket," he argued.
He went on to say we wouldn't have billions of people legally engaging with music on platforms driven by user-generated content. We wouldn't have the explosion of global genres, bedroom producers creating Hot 100 hits, or fans becoming creators in their own right.
Right. The philosophical split reflects a broader tension within the music industry about how to balance copyright protection with technological innovation. As Music Business Worldwide founder Tim Ingham noted in his analysis of the Warner-Suno deal, quote, "Why would Warner Music Group CEO Robert Kinsel grant Suno this freedom rather than locking the service into a walled garden like Udio?" The answer, he suggested, may lie in the concerns about ceding the AI music market to unregulated international competitors.
Reddit threads following the Warner-Suno announcement captured user sentiment with comments warning soon there will be a model from China to fill the gap. For Nash, however, the walled garden principle remains fundamental. Speaking to Rolling Stone following the Udio settlement, he described Suno's open approach as risking direct cannibalization of artists and called it an unsustainable status quo.
Yeah, the public disagreement between the two executives, one representing the interests of a recorded music giant, of course, and the other an ex-major label exec representing the interests of an AI music unicorn, as they put it, highlights the lack of consensus on how AI music platforms should operate. While both camps agree that licensing is preferable to litigation, they diverge sharply on the terms of that licensed future.
As the industry awaits the launch of Udio's new licensed platform and Suno's revised models later this year, the walled garden debate looks set to intensify. What's clear is that the resolution of this philosophical divide will shape how millions of users interact with AI music creation and how artists are compensated for years to come. Boy, oh boy, would it be fun to be a fly on the wall of those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Between the majors and these different platforms.
Yep.
Well, as we wrap up the show, we do want to thank our sponsors, our good friends over at Hypebot and Bands in Town. We could not do without them. And by the way, if you like the show, please just tell one friend, Jay, and I would certainly appreciate that. It is music by the Licorice Quartet. And on behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, I'm Mike Etchart. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.